Millions of people know Jesus through the four canonical Gospels: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. They describe his birth, a few childhood episodes, and then nothing. From age 12 to 30, not a single word. 18 years erased from history. He disappears from the records as if he never existed. No descriptions, no sermons, no miracles. A legitimate question arises. Why? The scene where 12-year-old Jesus debates with teachers in Jerusalem's temple is the last we hear of him as a youth. Then the narrative abruptly jumps to 30-year-old Christ coming to John the Baptist at the Jordan River to begin his ministry. Anything could have happened during this time: education, travels, spiritual transformation, yet the official Bible remains silent. Some theologians claim nothing important occurred during these years, that Jesus simply lived an ordinary life as a carpenter. But this explanation doesn't hold up. Why would the evangelists, who so meticulously document his genealogy, mission, suffering, and resurrection, skip over nearly 2 decades? If we look deeper, this isn't merely a gap. It's a deliberately excised fragment, possibly removed for a specific purpose. Historians, theologians, and even travelers throughout the ages have attempted to shed light on this mystery. Some found strange documents in Tibetan archives, others in Indian monasteries, some in texts rejected by church councils as apocrypha. But the main intrigue remains: is it possible the church actually knows where Jesus was during these years, but carefully conceals this information? And if so, what could be so dangerous in these records that they must be kept from the masses? This isn't just an empty space in a biography. This is a lacuna that may conceal the true essence of his teachings, a secret capable of changing everything. If the Bible remains silent, alternative sources begin to speak. Over the centuries, numerous hypotheses have emerged about where Jesus spent those 18 missing years of his life. From Palestinian communities to Indian temples, from Egyptian mysteries to Tibetan monasteries, the theories are so varied they cannot be ignored. Could he really have traveled so far from Judea to prepare for his great mission? One of the most debated theories is his journey to India and Tibet. In the 19th century, Russian explorer Nicholas Notovich claimed to have discovered ancient manuscripts in the Hemis monastery in Ladakh, describing a saint named Isa who came from the west. This Isa allegedly taught Indians about compassion, opposed the caste system, and was later expelled by priests. His description closely matches that of Christ. Notovich was ridiculed by scholars, his findings dismissed as fabrications. Yet decades later, other researchers, such as Swami Abhedananda and Nicholas Rurik, claim to have seen similar manuscripts. Interestingly, Tibetan monks treated these accounts as common knowledge. Isa had indeed come from the West, studied under Buddhist monks, and later returned to fulfill his destiny. Another version leads us to Egypt. After the Holy Family fled there during his infancy, it's plausible Jesus later returned. Egypt was then a hub of ancient esoteric wisdom, the school of Hermes Trismegistus, the temples of Isis, and secret teachings on the afterlife. Some believe he underwent initiations in these temples, mastering metaphysics, alchemy, and ascension practices. We must also consider the Essenes, the ascetic community near the Dead Sea at Qumran. These reclusive mystics studied ancient prophecies and practiced rigorous spiritual discipline. Many scholars suggest the young Jesus may have been connected to them, with their teachings later reflected in his sermons. These theories aren't mere sensationalism. They suggest Christ may have been a seeker, a traveler absorbing truths from diverse cultures. His mission might not have been purely religious, but a synthesis of Eastern and Western wisdom. Yet if any of this is true, why does the church stay silent? And why does mainstream history pretend these versions don't exist? If the story of Jesus' travels is merely a myth, then why do so many sources from different corners of the world speak of it with striking similarity? And why were these testimonies excluded from the canon? The answer lies in the very concept of canonical truth, a carefully selected and edited version approved by the official church. Anything that didn't fit its framework was either destroyed or condemned to oblivion. The first mysterious clue lies in the aforementioned manuscripts from the Hemis monastery in Tibet. According to Notovich, they were kept in a restricted archive, not meant for outsiders. He recorded a translation from Tibetan. Isa, the blessed son of the people of Israel, came to India at the age of 14. There, he taught truth, opposed the priests, and healed the suffering. After Notovich's controversial revelation, many attempts were made to confirm or debunk the authenticity of these texts. Some modern researchers, like Holger Kirsten, continued the investigation, insisting that the parallels were too precise to be coincidental. The second important thread comes from the apocryphal Gospels excluded from the New Testament. Among them are the Gospels of Thomas, Philip, and the infancy Gospels describing Jesus' youth. For instance, the infancy Gospel of Jesus tells of supernatural events, miracles, and his early knowledge of cosmic laws. In one episode, he revives a dead sparrow. In another, he engages in a philosophical debate with temple teachers. These texts were dismissed as heretical, yet they reveal not just a boy, but a being with timeless wisdom. Equally significant are the Dead Sea Scrolls discovered at Qumran. Some scholars believe they contain coded references to a teacher of righteousness, a figure strikingly similar to Jesus. Though not named directly, the descriptions of his character, prophetic mission, and conflict with authorities bear undeniable resemblance. Add to this the enigmatic chronicles of early Christian sects that vanished without a trace: Manichaeans, Gnostics, Nazarenes. Their teachings survive only in fragments, yet they claimed Christ was initiated into secret schools of Egypt and India. In Gnostic texts, Jesus is not merely a teacher, he is an avatar of ancient knowledge, sent to awaken the divine spark within humanity. So why did the Church reject these texts? Why was it so crucial to preserve only one official image of Christ? Perhaps because the alternative, a wandering mystic, a sage trained in foreign traditions, was too dangerous for established dogma. It brings him closer to humanity, yet shatters the monopoly on truth. Throughout centuries, the Church has acted not only as a spiritual institution, but also as a political force. Since the 4th century, when Christianity became the state religion of the Roman Empire, faith became intertwined with systems of power. It was then that the systematic canonization of texts and destruction of alternative sources began, including those that could shed light on Christ's lost years. Who decided which Gospels were to be considered sacred and which heretical? The answer lies with councils like the First Council of Nicaea, 325 AD, where emperors and bishops shaped the official doctrine. Any text that didn't conform to its dogmas was declared dangerous. For example, the Gospel of Thomas, which states, "The kingdom of God is within you," could have undermined the Church's role as mediator between man and God. Why is controlling the image of Jesus so important? If the public learned of Christ's alternative path, as a student of Eastern wisdom, a mystic who mastered secret knowledge, it would destroy the notion of the Church's exclusive role in salvation. For salvation would then become not a sacramental rite, but an inner path for each individual. This is precisely what Gnostic texts proclaim. Know yourself, and you will know God. Perhaps this is why groups like the Gnostics, Cathars, and Templars were exterminated or declared heretics. They all preserved knowledge related to alternative teachings of Christ. The Cathars, for instance, believed in the dual nature of the world, that the human soul was a spark of the divine, and that Jesus came to remind humanity of this. But such ideas undermine the very structure of church hierarchy. Interestingly, the Vatican maintains a restricted library accessible only to select individuals. Estimates suggest it contains hundreds of thousands of manuscripts unavailable to the world. Could some of these documents confirm Jesus' presence in India or Egypt? Some believe so. But to acknowledge this would require accepting that the entire Christian narrative might change. Beyond the Church, modern governments and intelligence agencies might also have an interest in suppressing such information. For if Jesus' image transforms from an object of worship into that of a mystic who challenged systems of power and religious control, he becomes a symbol of freedom and awakening. All this leads us to a crucial conclusion. Concealing the full truth about Jesus' life isn't merely a religious matter. It's a question of power, control, and maintaining the status quo. Should the truth emerge, it wouldn't just alter the religious worldview, but the very structure of influence itself. There are several factors that explain this situation. First, the very concept of the lost years contradicts the canonical portrayal of Christ's life, as upheld by the Church. The Vatican has always adhered to the version in which Christ's life, from his birth to the age of 30, remains mysterious, but his public ministry begins with baptism and preaching. It is quite possible that the official Church does not wish to challenge this traditional interpretation because it forms the foundation of Christian doctrine, which has been established over many centuries. Over time, however, alternative hypotheses have emerged, questioning this official narrative. We've heard about the possible travels of Jesus to India or Tibet, his encounters with Eastern sages, and even his potential connections with secret societies transmitting esoteric knowledge. All of these versions naturally create a conflict with the canonical texts and the official doctrine, and the Vatican, clearly, avoids discussing them to prevent shaking the foundations of its teachings. What's even more significant is that the Vatican justifies its persistent disregard for these versions by claiming that such studies could lead to the spread of false beliefs and disrupt religious practice. This is not only about preserving doctrine, but also maintaining the unity of the faithful. Acknowledging that there might have been aspects of Christ's life not recorded in the Holy Scriptures would undermine the coherent image the Church offers its followers. And here we come to the most important point. The Church has always played an important role not only as a spiritual organization but also as an institution with political and social power. Discovering truths that could undermine the Church's authority is not in the interest of its leadership, which seeks to preserve its role in society. This is particularly relevant in the context of the Church's relationship with secular power, both at the national and international levels. But if we look at the situation from a different perspective, the question arises: does the Vatican lose its religious authority if it stops asking questions, exploring, and opening new horizons in search of the truth? Perhaps this is the real challenge for the official Church, to learn to let go of old dogmas and embrace new interpretations without fearing the unknown. Why does the Church continue to close its eyes to these versions? Perhaps the answers lie in the desire for control, the preservation of power, and the protection of what many consider sacred and unchangeable. The question remains open. Will the Church ever reconsider its stance and admit that the truth may be far more complex and multifaceted than it has been made out to be?